I'm deviating away, but Melanie has also had like an unconscionably way too many occurrences of mastitis. She's had mastitis like, you could fact check me on this with her, but it's like 17 times between our two kids.
Gosh. Hello and welcome to the Be Well Baby podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Spade. Our guest today is Jonny Long, founder of Flyview Productions. This was another conversation I had live inside Beyond Birth. So you'll hear me answering questions from students and reading their comments throughout the conversation. You'll also hear me reference how Jonny has been really just an incredible collaborator in helping me reimagine how healthcare, especially perinatal and postpartum care, is visually represented. Jonny is a photographer and cinematographer with over 8,000 licensable assets on Getty Images and iStock. He has the skills and reach to make real change. But what I love most about working with him is his genuine commitment to getting it right. Stock photography in healthcare is universally terrible. It's canned, staged, and honestly not that useful to those of us actually doing the work, trying to change the healthcare system from the inside out. Jonny gets that. He wants to see the partner's perspective represented online, and he has been incredibly collaborative as we've created images that show warmth, actual home visits with real humans receiving real care from real therapists using real tools. When I asked Jonny for his bio for this podcast, he modestly said he's pretty much just a professional at taking pictures of his wife and children. And that just about tells you everything you need to know about his humility, about how this conversation went. His family is truly his inspiration. I can't wait for you to hear our conversation. Let's welcome Jonny. So Jonny is not my typical guest on Beyond Birth. And the reason that I invited him on today is that he is actually a photographer. He owns Flyview Productions, and he has been working with me to sort of change the way that stock photography represents healthcare in the home, postpartum care, and the partner's perspective of being postpartum. So I have a lot of respect for Jonny, and I'm really happy that he's here. And he offered to kind of come give a partner perspective on a lot of really intense, raw things that happen when you're a parent and when you're preparing to have a baby. So thank you so much, Jonny, for being here. I appreciate you.
Totally my pleasure.
Awesome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your family, your kids, and where you are in your pregnancy and postpartum journey at the moment?
Yeah. Do you want to start with me as a bit like 1987 or
1987?
Yeah. So my wife and I have been together for over 20 years. We are high school sweethearts. And we run our production company together, and we have 2 young children, beautiful, angelic, at all times perfect children that are 5 and 2.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah. I wish I could provide a thorn, but alas, it's just always, unicorns and rainbows.
That's funny.
Yeah. So 2 small children. I come from a big family. I have 6 siblings. And so I always knew when I was younger, I took relationships very seriously. And some might describe me as overprocess things too much. And I'm pretty emotional and, for better or worse. And I always knew that I really wanted kids. I was excited about having kids.
Jonny, where were you in the lineup of your siblings?
5 of 7.
Wow.
Yeah. My mom now that I have 2 children, their appreciation for how much of a saint she is has only gone up.
Did you get to see or experience any of your siblings being born?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't. My daughter was the first birth that I witnessed.
I wasn't even going to ask you about this, but how was that first transition into parenthood?
Oh my gosh.
The birth, you can talk about the first weeks postpartum, but I'm just curious, when you've had more than one, to remember back to that first time that you became a parent.
Yeah. You hear so many things of this is how you're going to feel when you have a parent. And some of them were true. Some not so much for us. But the thing that I always go to is like, I was concerned with, man, I'm totally going to faint in the delivery room. Like, there's no way I can handle seeing this much blood or anything. And it was like, I'm sure I'm not on an island here, but I was just totally transfixed and could not look away. And it was the most incredible thing, hands down, the most incredible thing I've seen in my life. And it really was just like it being completely, there's a lot of tangential things happening in our lives at that point that were really stressful. And we lived in another country. We live in Toronto. She was born there. And I was just, there's a lot happening, but my memory and takeaway from that period when she was born was that I was just overcome with positive emotions that, like, good God, this is like, we did this and we don't have to give her back. She's going home with us. Like, I keep looking around waiting for somebody to come and, tell us that we don't get to keep her, but I was just so excited. We were both really excited.
Yeah. So I know that it's hard to be the partner when unexpected things happen in a pregnancy or a birth. Did anything unexpected happen in either of your births?
Yes. Both actually. Mara, my oldest, Melani was like, my wife was totally like pretty chill and relaxed. She hadn't taken anything for pain management. And she was fine until she wasn't. And finally, they realized that her head was turned sideways. And at that point, she was over 9 millimeters. And so her heart rate was going up. And they're like, well, we got to, what we were told, and I have no idea what, the validity behind this, but, more likely than not, if it was in the US, they would have just gone straight to cesarean. But I can't say enough good things about healthcare in Canada. We had an amazing experience, and the anesthesiologist and doctors and nurses were just so comforting. And the anesthesiologist asked me, he's like, I know you're in a lot of pain. Do you think you can hold really still for me to give you a shot? I said, yeah. And he did. And it was like immediately her body tensed up enough to where Mara turned and she was fine and labored for a few more hours and then eventually had her vaginally.
Wow. I mean, that's so respectful for an anesthesiologist to say, do you think you can stay still? Because I think most of the time when that happens, they're like, I'm going to need you to stay still.
Yeah. Yeah. His bedside manner was awesome. Like I think Melani was probably relaxed because he was relaxed. He's like, yeah, this is where it's at. If I understand if it's too painful and we need to go a different route, but if you think you can manage it, then we're going to go for it.
Yeah.
So
what was the unexpected thing that happened in your son's birth?
Kaleo, the dude just has a giant head. And he's a big baby. He was like almost 10 pounds. So she was pushing like crazy and he was not coming out. So they ended up having to do the whole vacuum deal. Or not the vacuum. They did the suction thing and he came out. Also with Mara, Melani had a pretty bad tear. She had an episiotomy. And so that was for sure an added deal.
Yeah.
I cannot begin to comprehend or relate from a female perspective, but that alone postpartum was just it was really uncomfortable from a physical standpoint and added a lot to what was already there and then continued. Yeah. I'm deviating away, but Melani has also had like an unconscionably way too many occurrences of mastitis. She's had mastitis like, you could fact check me on this with her, but it's like 17 times between our two kids.
Gosh,
so there's a lot of boob feeding stuff there that were really uncomfortable. So that was an aspect of it as well.
Jonny, how did you show up for her with her healing postpartum? She had an episiotomy, so they cut her. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And when they did that, did they talk about it with her?
They did.
Okay.
They did. They just said, I can't actually remember why they said they had to. I think it was because she's just been laboring for so long, but they said, hey, she's not coming out. We need to help her along. It's it's safer for her. It's what she needs. And of course, Melani is, do it. So
how did you show up in terms of the healing process for her postpartum? Like, what did you do specifically?
At that point, we were in a tiny 800 square foot condo in downtown Toronto. And it was right before the pandemic hit and both of our sets of parents were there visiting from out of state. And so that just is to provide context of the space. I think the ways in which I helped her were helping set some boundaries with the people that were there who we loved and cared about and really wanted there, but also not putting her in a position of having to say like, hey, I need this space, or like, hey, I'm really sore and in a bad way and I need to go sit in an Epsom salt bath for the next 3 hours. So not putting her in a position to be the one to communicate those things, and kind of taking her cues on, not because at all, because I'm a man or, hierarchical thing at all, but just kind of taking the lead on that and communicating for her. And then also, I would say just being insanely communicative and attempting to be empathetic to what she was experiencing. I was really, really, I've told you this before, you know this, and I mentioned it the other day on Saturday, but I would have been so insanely grateful to have a Be Well Baby resource pre-child, because, I graduated from college and I spent years watching my very young niece and nephew multiple times. Like I did that part time, and I love kids, love babies. Like I thought I knew a lot about taking care, keeping a human alive, and just had no clue. Like there's such a colossal difference between taking care of someone else's child and keeping your own alive 24 hours a day and navigating the logistics of coordinating everything.
I think it also feels like just the weight of that responsibility is huge,
Different.
Yeah, it's
different for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, got lost answering the question that maybe I didn't answer it, but
That's okay. Let's go to Kaleo's birth. And I'm curious what it was like in those like early days, first 3 days postpartum with the family dynamic, because you had Xiomara and then you, and then this fresh baby. Melanie is healing from this vacuum assisted birth. That she tear at all during that?
I think there's grades, right? Isn't it like a grade? I think Xiomara was like a borderline. It was grade 2, but it was like borderline close to grade 3. I think Kaleo was a grade 1, shockingly, even though he was bigger.
Yeah. It's the first one paves the way,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Xiomara. But the first 3 days, so we were like heavily engrossed in the pandemic at that point. So we were still in that, masked world. And so let's see, at that point, that first night in the hospital, that was the first time we'd ever not had Xiomara, our older daughter, with us. Which was, that alone was like, that was a thing. Just thinking about, thankfully I have my oldest brother who's 10 years older than me, is like, he would absolutely hate me ever putting him on a pedestal, but he's the most incredible father I've ever seen, and just an insanely intentional person who's taught me an enormous amount about parenting and living and just being a decent human being. And so that was, Xiomara stayed was with him and his family.
Stop here for a second, because I don't know about everyone else in the room here, but I'm like, what did he teach you? Tell me his secrets if he's so great. I need to tell you guys about the Cerise Chill, because it absolutely changed the way that I feel about pumping. First of all, it's so slick. It's basically a cooler that you pump into. It has all these different parts that fit together to form different cups, and then it all fits back together to keep your milk cold forever. I took 4 of these things with me across the country, and it kept my milk absolutely cold and actually started freezing it. So the Cerise Chill, I'm not even going to say more. You should just go check it out. There's a link in the show notes if you want to learn more. Like, what are takeaways that you've learned from him?
Yeah. He hates it when I joke with him privately about this, but I pretty frequently tell him, like, I like it or not, I often follow the Bible of Joseph in terms of parenting. But I would say,
I'm assuming
his name is Joseph, yeah. And okay, so the things that I've especially taken away from him, the ideas of just communicating with your partner, the importance of communicating with your partner and allowing space for his wife, his partner, to feel everything she's felt. They have 4 kids. The value, and probably the single biggest thing for me, which, if you know me, you know me better than anyone on this call, but I've historically struggled a lot with setting boundaries and wanting to be liked, and having a hard time saying no because I don't want to let people down, or just a lot of stuff that there's a lot of deeply rooted stuff there that my therapist could tell you all about. um, I'm not sure that had I not spent 15 years hanging out, watching his kids and having just really intentional ongoing dialogue about parenting and things that were happening in his life with his kids as they were happening, I'm not sure that I would have been as well equipped. I'm certain I wouldn't have been as well equipped to navigate some of the things I've experienced as a dad with my own kids. And setting boundaries was a very long-winded way of getting there. But he does an exceptional job of allowing freedom for his kids to make decisions and have autonomy with play and building resilience and like all the cliche things we hear about that we should teach our kids, while also safeguarding who they are and what's important to their family by putting boundaries in place so to eliminate the decision for them. Example would be, I'm not touching the controversial subject of sleepovers, like that alone, right? Like that's there's my daughter. Not putting it in their hands to like be the bad guy with their friends and say, no, I can't stay over at your house tonight, or whatever, I can't go on a trip with your family. Whatever it is, just simply like with some of those things that are important to them as a family unit, like making the decision for them and explaining to them behind closed doors, not just saying it and not having conversation, but having dialogue with the kids so they understand what's happening, why you're doing it, and why you're making the decisions you are, and being cognizant of the fact that, or aware rather, of telling them that like this probably doesn't make sense to you right now, and I completely understand that, and it makes sense. Here's why it makes sense to me, and just being honest and open with them. I think I know I'm rambling, and I'm sorry, so you can tell me to stop at any point. But I think for me, seeing that allowed me, how do I say it? I think it made me more intentional about not just like, hey, this is making decisions with my kids and saying this is what's happening, and not really having any explanation or context behind it.
Yeah, I think I heard a lot as a kid because I said so.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really try not to even have the energy of as a parent. Like, it's not because I said so. Like, there's a really good reason that I'm not, for example, letting you sleep over at this person's house. Because the last time you stayed up till 1 a.m. and then you were the worst for 2 days.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay, we've gotten onto the topic of sleepovers, which is not where I thought we would go.
Yeah, sorry. That's on me.
So let's go back to your like current family, and have you been thinking about expanding your family?
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we'll be very, very candid here and tell this group stuff that not even a lot of our friends and family doesn't even know. Melanie was pregnant. Is it about 6 months ago, Emily?
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
She was pregnant and miscarried at 8 weeks, just over 8 weeks. And that was a time. And this is like insanely fresh, and none of my family knows this. So if any of you know them, please don't share. But Melani's pregnant right now, and she's just hit that 8-week mark. And as of yesterday, she started bleeding a little bit. So we have an appointment in 2 days. And so it's pretty fresh, but I'm happy to talk about it.
Jonny, yeah. It's so hard to go through, like you are in it right now.
Mm-hmm.
But 6 months ago, when you went through that, it's so hard to go through something like that when when it's not happening to your body, but it is happening to the unit and to the person that you love. How do you show up, and how does it affect you? Like you're your own person having your own experience of this. Obviously, she's having her own deep experience of it. But I'm curious from your perspective as the partner, how does it show up for you? What does it make you feel? And how do you show up for her? Yeah.
When it happens, it was a pretty emotional time for obvious reasons. Something I'm more grateful for than anything that happened with that was just the ability that having our personal lives with our work be what it is, so that we could just turn off. And we did. Like, we totally just disconnected for like 2 weeks, and we sat outside, and we had a rare stretch of warm, sunny days, and we sat outside on our porch and watched our kids play and just talked and talked and talked and talked and talked. And that was like the most therapeutic thing for us, I think, in navigating it. And it totally hit us differently in terms of how we responded emotionally. It was hard for both of us. It was especially hard for Maylon because she was visiting her best friend in California and called me from the airport and said, "Hey, I've just started like bleeding a lot." And she had to navigate the stress of going through an airport and a fully booked flight, like trying to communicate with the airline, "Hey, can I be close to a bathroom?" Because, well, she's crying because she's, all kinds of stuff. So it was a really, really hard first couple of days for her going through as she was miscarrying.
So traumatic to be like in a place where you have no control when something is happening to you that you have no control over.
Yeah, it was pretty tough. And thankfully, I couldn't ever come up with enough good things to say about Melanie if I tried. She's got so many beautiful attributes, and she has a really beautiful way of analyzing information and in a way that allows her to process it, have empathy, but also like see it for what it is. And where for me, I often just get clouded because I'm emotional. And
what was her perspective on it?
She sees her therapist twice a week, at least once a week. So I know she, when that happened, she had an appointment with her like less than 48 hours later. And her therapist was telling her, and this is like, her therapist explained to her, and I'm sure this is a crude explanation, but she said, depending on your belief system, there's a lot of communities that believe that, or there's certain faith beliefs that see miscarrying a child, like the perception is that, oh, that child has died, they're gone. And depending on what your belief system is, if there's any, that you might believe that a miscarriage happening is that baby's way of communicating with the mom. That's like, hey, I feel that there's a lot of stress and stuff. There's a lot happening in your life. There's a lot going on. And I kind of feel like it's not the right time for you, and it's not the right time for me. And so, like, rather than saying goodbye forever, we're just going to call it quits for now. And I'll be back. I might be back later on. And I know it's, scientifically that makes zero sense in the context of egg and sperm and all that stuff. But for us, it was such an insanely comforting thought just to wrap our heads around the idea that like this, well, we mourn the loss of what we thought our lives were going to be over the next few months. And it was easier for me to navigate this thought that like this kid hasn't died. He's just given us some time to figure some SHIT out. And maybe they'll, if it's the right time, he or she will come back.
Well, I want you to know that in the chat, you have like nothing but supportive, loving thoughts from everyone who's here.
Oh, thank you.
And then Dawn said that her mom had 3 abortions before having her sister and herself. And she has come to believe that souls will come back if it's meant to be. And I've also, like, from a purely scientific perspective, and I don't know if this will help or hurt people who listen to this in the future, but I've seen some babies who tried to go, and then the medical establishment brings them back. And it's not a happy life.
Yeah.
So I really believe that when those babies who are like 8 weeks, 12 weeks even, and they're like, oh, this is not going to work, that like, it's fine to let them go, and that they will come back if it's meant to be. I love that.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you on that note, and this would, I would not begin in a million years to tell anyone how to grieve a traumatic experience that they've had, because all the things you say, like, it's not the same for you as it is for me or anyone else. Like in our feelings are our feelings, right? Like it's no one else's job to tell us that we should or shouldn't feel a certain way when we're dealing with something serious. But one of the hardest things dealing with that miscarriage was the expectation for Melanie that she should feel a certain way, like that she should be grieving and so sad, and that it's so like, because there's a lot, It was. I'm not saying she wasn't really sad or emotional about it, but especially after that, after we just had hours and hours of conversation, we were both in such a healthier place and mindset. And it's not like it's like, okay, everything's better. We're good to go. There's still a lot of dialogue around it. Hardest being that, like, our kids navigating that, and my son coming up and kissing Meilani's belly constantly and wanting to talk to Big, like that stuff is hard. That's really hard to deal with. But it was really tough having people we loved, that we cared about, that we knew were well intentioned, no matter how many times we said, like, we're okay, like we're good. It's sad, but we're good. Really hard to have that it consistently, like, I'm so, so, so sorry. Like, how are you doing? Are you it's gonna be okay. And like,
You're like, I know. Okay.
yeah, like we're good. Like it, it's, it's a little bit added. It's an added layer of, I don't want to say resentment, but annoyance, I guess, frustration, when you feel like you have, for Meilani, which I can't relate to, but for her to feel like she has to comfort somebody else and quell their own discomfort, knowing that, we've experienced this thing, when she truly is, like, she's good. And if she wasn't, she would, she'd be open and honest about it. She's an open book. So that was hard. Just that whole idea of feeling like it was our responsibility to make other people feel okay, when we had the space and the time to process what happened and work through it. So, and I'll be honest, we talked about it last night. Like, we're not sure what's going to happen with this pregnancy. There's I think probably for both of us, I'll speak for myself on this, but there's a part of me that's terrified at the thought of navigating another miscarriage, because it was, more than anything, it was a lot physically for her, which has ramifications beyond, we have a full household and just a lot. I think our ability to navigate it, if we find out in 48 hours that there's not a heartbeat, or she's in the process of miscarrying again, I think we're both just way more well equipped to handle that reality than we were 6 months ago, because of the space that we gave each other to communicate and talk about it in great detail.
What was the thing that you kept coming back to when you were grieving?
Probably the kid one. My 5-year-old got that pretty, I mean, she was pretty matter of factual about it. Like, she was really sad right at the, when we first told her. But seeing my son, my 2-year-old, not really comprehend that and still wanting to interact, was like, I can just, like, multiple times rocking him to bed there, him just sitting there rocking him to bed, just like crying in the dark, listening to Coldplay or whatever it is, because he had just, spent the last 5 minutes touching her belly and talk. Like, that was hard for me.
I know, it's so hard. And at the same time, I feel like the little ones, like, maybe they get something that we don't get, like maybe he is like, no, it's okay. There is a baby there. And I was saying hi.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. We never know. Well, thank you, Jonny, for sharing all of that. I know that's a lot and that you're literally in the middle of it. So we're all thinking about you.
Thank you. Thank you. We're good.
If you are looking for a pacifier that will support your baby's oral motor development, the Mini is my favorite. So it's wide at the base and soft at the base, and it gets firm at the tip, just like a breast and a nipple and an areola. It's not as firm as a traditional pacifier, so it allows your baby to get used to getting organized around a softer surface. Use the code BeWellBaby for 10% off at checkout at minico.com. Thanks for listening. Let's get back to the episode. I'm curious if there are ways that being a parent has stretched your ability to... I'm going to stop asking this question because Dawn has a question that I'm going to let her.
Oh, hey, Jonny.
Hi, Dawn.
So funny. Hi. Mine's about birth because that's obviously rather on my mind these days, and just being the birth partner, and if they're like how that process was for you, like with the first birth and the second birth, but even more specifically, like what did you do to support your own health and wellness to be able to be a support during labor? And if there's a labor in the future, like what would you take with you into that next experience?
Good question. I think probably more than anything, just being, I mean, again, it depends on, on your partner. in terms of what they need. I know like often we give somebody what we think we would want, and it's not what they would want. So I would say, just generally speaking though, probably from the support person standpoint, trying to sleep, which I know is hard to do. But somehow finding the ability to rest so that you're going into that experience with a clear head and some semblance of energy. And whether that means finding somebody in your support community to help out with, come and make you I wouldn't be afraid to ask for, maybe seek help from your community in ways that you typically wouldn't. Like, hey, I'm running a little low today and we have this, obviously we're going to have a child and I want to be at full capacity. Could you make us a dinner to take that off our plate? Or like, I'm stressed that our living room's a mess, whatever it is, like whatever it is for you guys, finding help to take some of those daily stresses off your plate so they're not things you're thinking about in the moment or going into it.
I'm wondering if you're thinking of like when labor starts and when the birth is about to start, is that a moment where you're recommending that people get sleep? Because I think that like it's so important as the partner to be well rested, and in those early stages of labor where like the birthing person they're fine, like everyone else might be freaking out, but they're okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, with Ziamara, I was running on full adrenaline. So I remember in the hospital room, Melani's like, Jonny, you should go, like, you can go lay down and get some rest if you want. And I'm like, not a chance. And she's like, well, I might be laboring for 24 hours. And so yeah, let's go. Which I honestly don't remember if I did with Kaleo at all, our son. But yeah, I think that would, for sure, that's a good one. Like maybe you tell Tracy, listen, we could be in this a while. I could be laboring for a very long time. I feel good right now. I don't feel like, I know you support me and you love me, but you don't have to be doing a dang thing right now. Just go rest. Or if you are amped up and you want to, go for a walk around the hospital, whatever it is. But just allowing them allowing your partner maybe the freedom to encourage them to take some time for themselves and assuring them that you're okay is maybe comforting.
Jonny, is there something that you would take with you if you do end up having a third birth? Like something that you really want to do the same or that you really want to do differently?
I mean, probably document with more cameras every possible angle so we can. I did photograph both her births a lot, so that it's a joke, but not a joke at the same time.
More angle, more light.
I'm curious. I haven't asked Melani about this. I'm curious to know how she feels at this point about having like a support person in the room,
like a doula,
or a family member. We had her mom. Both our moms were in Toronto. Were like in and out with us a little bit, and then oh no, I'm totally wrong. Her mom couldn't come to our son's birth because she got sick and it was COVID. So my mom ended up coming in the last minute and being there. And I don't know that we would have maybe a doula or midwife. I mean, we honestly haven't talked about it a whole lot at this point, but I'm not sure that we would have like a family member in the room with us.
Interesting. It changes the dynamic to have a family member for sure.
It does.
And did you feel like because your mom was there, you had to kind of take care of your mom?
No, not really. I didn't feel that way. And I mean, I love my mom and Melani loves my mom. So it's not anything personal. My mom is she's a marriage and family counselor, therapist. So her tendency is going to, always be to communicate and ask questions. And that's not Melani's personality. That's especially in moments of like high tension or stress. That's not what she needs in that moment. Yeah. It changes the dynamics. That's the easiest way of saying it.
Yeah, totally. I know that for my first birth, my mom was in the room, and at a certain point, I just needed her to not be, and that was okay.
It's okay.
And I think that you just don't know until you're in it. And with each subsequent birth, you can try something new and see how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got some people chiming in here. Melody said that in the first birth, neither one of her or her partner was getting sleep. And it was such a long birth. But with the second birth, they slept through the night and they both felt way better and stronger for the birth. And Dawn is asking, do you think it would have even been possible to rest because you're so excited with the first birth? And maybe not. I think it's easy to hear like, you need to sleep, you need to sleep. But in the moment, it is really exciting and you don't know how fast it's going to progress and it's hard. So as much as you can rest, even if you're just laying down and breathing or listening to a meditation, those are all really good ways. You can even listen to some of the sleep meditations, really, really good ways to get yourself get your heart rate low and allow your body to rest and recover without feeling anxious that you need to sleep. Because sometimes that feeling of like, I need to sleep will just increase anxiety.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said too about, Dawn, you're doing a home birth. Is that right? Or you're planning? Yeah. My first was at a midwifery home, like in Alma. So I think that like nervousness and anxiety around that you have to go somewhere for your birth can hinder sleep. Whereas my second birth was a home birth. And I knew that I was just going to be at home. There was like more of a relaxation element to that, I think, knowing that I can just continue to rest in my bed. I don't have to go anywhere and people will come to me. Maybe that's something to kind of keep in mind, Dawn, is that you will be home.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because I think, like Emily said, that first one, you're just like so excited and you're like counting, and timing out your contractions. And then you are like, okay, I got to go. Right. So, and then of course you get there way too early, which is what happened to us. We were there like way too early and they almost sent us home, but they ended up allowing us to stay because it was our first. But yeah, that's a hard figuring that out, when to go and when to stay.
And if you do end up waiting too long, it's just miserable to transfer. So I think it is nice that you're planning a home birth. You can really kind of make your home and your every environment feel like a nest and just like stay there, stay relaxed. Okay, let's get back to being a partner. So, Jonny, if a partner came to you and was kind of confused or overwhelmed or not sure how to be helpful postpartum, what would you tell them?
I think postpartum, are we talking like directly following, like right after you're coming home? I think I'm reticent to like always like, you should do this or this should be, just because it can sound very preachy and people's, again, experiences, people are different. But I think I would say that you should avoid figuring things out in the middle of the night. Like, that's not having a conversation and trying to navigate what's happening in the moment with your partner when you are both beyond sleep deprived and fatigued and have so much adrenaline from everything that's just happened. And for the person delivering, just the hormonal, physical commitment that goes into that. Like, it's just, there is so much happening there. And it's easy as the partner who didn't, I think, to feel like there isn't any space for them. Like, I'm being supportive. I care about this. This is my person. I want to do whatever I can for them, but also feeling like building up, if you're not communicating about it and having ongoing dialogue, like building up this ongoing resentment that like, I'm doing everything I can, but it's still not enough. And then on the other side, like, this person is going out of their way to doing everything but what I want, like, but what I need. And if you're navigating that at 2 a.m. when your kid's screaming, hopefully your babies don't, and they're sleeping right off the bat for 12 hours at a time. But it's just a recipe for like absolute chaos and some really intense misunderstanding. And I will say, in 21 years of being with Melani, I mean, I can't emphasize enough how much we love and adore and appreciate, value, like all that stuff. We do. But probably the worst arguments that we have ever had happened in the first 6 months of Ziamara's life. Because all we knew was like, I care about taking care of Melani and trying to take as much off her plate as I could, because I felt like that's what she needed. And from her perspective, she's like, no, you're trying to be a martyr. Like, I am crazy sleep deprived and I am having all this happening to me, but I'm not asking you to kill yourself in order to make sure that I'm okay. Like, what I need is for you to take care of yourself. And so like, there's just all kinds of, that's a very loose explanation. There's all kinds of, you could dig a rabbit hole with going down that, but
communication is so hard. And even if you come into being a parent feeling like you have good communication with your partner, everything changes. I always think about like, every single time you add a new human to your family, you are breaking down the whole system and building something new every single time. I learned that from Barb Buckner Suarez. She's amazing. And I feel like that helped me understand that, like, when we have this fresh baby, we are building something different than we had before. And we want to make sure that we're building it together and not building our own separate little things.
Maybe to add as a and point onto this, if you haven't, I could not possibly recommend enough. If you are going to have a child and you have you and your partner trying to come up with ways of communicating and figure out how life is going to look and all of it, like, cannot emphasize enough the importance of just simply talking to somebody like you, Emily, or a resource that will go beyond the surface level of what postpartum depression or baby blues looks like and how that's going to feel for the one delivering that child and for the partner and how you navigate that, because it is an absolute colossal mind, you know what, when you are in it. And had I had a better understanding of what it would look like. Sorry, I'm just getting texts about my children from our babysitter. What that would look like for Meilani, it would have been a lot easier for me to navigate some of those challenges in the moment and not feel, but for both of us to not feel the way that we did in some of the challenges that we had just in communicating.
I want to kind of wrap up. I can't believe that it's already been an hour, but what were like some of the gems that you took away from that really, really tough time in your relationship, and what kind of communication tools or specific conversations did you have that really helped you stay connected?
One would be setting a time to simply have a check-in that is like that idea of putting something, whatever your version of putting something in the calendar or writing it down to make it important enough to schedule it. Like, I think that's really important. Like, it might seem silly, but putting in your calendar for both of you, hey, here's 10 minutes on Tuesday. We're just going to check in with each other and talk about how we're feeling. If we're tired, what can we do for each other? Just no agenda other than checking in. It's easy to kind of assume like, well, we're with each other all the time, we're going to talk about this stuff, and you just don't. So scheduling a time would be one. And then I think there's this really beautiful, for me, it's beautiful, is a Brene Brown concept that has to do more with like marriage and relationships. This idea of equality in a marriage or partnership, that it's this this belief that, well, marriages or relationships should be equal. Like we both put in that 50%, and that's how we show each other that we care. And the disconnect that comes from that, or the realities rather, and just accepting the fact that there are times where one of you will not be able to be at 50%, and maybe the both of you won't be. So her thing is like, I might, again, you could probably go and find a million clips of this online, but you might come home from a long day and you're stressed out, and communicating with your partner that I've got 20% in me, and your partner might say, I can pick up the slack. I'll take on 80. Like I'm good. And just communicating that you're running on fumes. And if your partner says, you know what, I'm at 20%, crap, what are we supposed to do? And that's the part that really hit for me, is like, if you're both not running at full capacity and you're struggling because of outside stress or whatever it might be, being able to communicate with your person and saying, I'm at 20% and I'm at 20%. That is not a good recipe for us to be kind to one another. How can we come up with a game plan so that we are kind to one another? And maybe that looks like we're going out and getting support from somewhere else. But essentially having what's the word I'm looking for? Self-awareness and the strength to be open and communicative with your partner, to say, I'm not there and I need help in a bad way. And if you do too, then we gotta figure it out, so we're not just absolute jerks to one another.
Huge, Jonny. It's huge. And I think like being able to be like, look, we're both at 20%. Let's just order DoorDash. Or, we're not going to be okay if we all try to make dinner right now. Like being willing to push the easy button in some way when you're just not at full capacity. And then at other times being willing to take up the slack. And I think that's huge and really powerful. Does anyone else have any last minute questions before I let Jonny go? Everyone is so excited about this rule. Some people already use it.
No, I'm just opening up the chat here. Melody, you use yeah. It's like a very basic, simple rule, but I do love it.
Jonny, do you have anything that you would share with a first time parent who is the partner, who is trying to figure out what their role is in all of this when this growth of another human being is happening inside someone else?
It's ambiguous. My response is ambiguous, but I would say do whatever you can to break the stereotype of what a partner should be, because the baseline should not be that you're gonna, you're special. I'm special as a dad because I shouldn't be put on a pedestal because I'm changing a diaper or because I'm making lunch or putting my kid to bed or whatever. Like, the baselines for who a partner should be and societally are just so insanely off from where they need to be. So I would just say as the partner, do what you're supposed to do, which is to show up and try to be understanding of your partner and be for your kid who you would have wanted as a baby, as a kid.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jonny. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Dawn says it's really apparent how much love and intention you hold for your partner and your family. We're really,
thank you, Dawn.
really happy that you were able to share your time with us today. And
thank you for being willing to listen. Not always easy sharing some of those vulnerable things as the person that's not experiencing carrying a baby. So I really value and appreciate the willingness to listen.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I know that you've talked to Milani about sharing all of this, and I just really appreciate your intentionality with being vulnerable about your whole family. So thank you.
Anytime.
I just want to thank Jonny and Milani so much for your willingness to be so vulnerable. I know that so many people listening to this can relate to many aspects of your story, and I'm so grateful to you both. This is probably one of my biggest takeaways from that conversation. Just as a partner, stop trying to perform what you think partnership should look like, and just be honest about what you actually need. Schedule the conversation. Tell your partner you're at 20%. Ask for help and build the life that you want together on purpose. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Please hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. And next week on the Be Well Baby podcast, I'm sitting down with Dr. Katie Kanda, a chiropractor and postpartum advocate who's helping parents rethink everything we thought we knew about motherhood. We talk about why postpartum healing feels impossible in a world not designed to support it, the myths that we need to bust, and what actually helps when you're exhausted, isolated, and wondering if you're failing. Because, spoiler alert, you're not failing. The system is. Don't miss it. I'll see you there. So, why should you listen to me? Because birth isn't the finish line. It is just the beginning. And you deserve to feel prepared, grounded, and supported. New episodes drop every Wednesday. And you can find us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on Instagram at BeWellBabyPDX or just visit BeWellBaby.org. Send an episode to someone who's pregnant, postpartum, or just needs guidance. No one should have to do this alone. Welcome to the Be Well Baby podcast. You're in the right place.